Bigfoot stomping through the pines, aliens sending secret signs, EVPs in the dead of night, ghosts dancing in the pale moonlight. Paranormal 411, we bring it to ya. Truth behind the veil, gotta pursue ya. Talking about the strange, the freaky, the weird. Fearless, we dive where others can see ya. Portal opens in the woods so deep. Creatures crawl from a timeless sleep. Lights in the sky, they flicker and blaze. Signals from beyond these earthly days.
All right.
It's Saturday.
It's Saturday.
We got a great guest.
We do have a great guest.
I'll tell you, though, before we start, I was at one of our good friends' house tonight.
Okay.
They did a baby reveal. It's a little girl.
Little girl.
So Nacho and Jael is having a little girl.
All right.
Yeah, it was awesome. So
Congratulations.
yes, congratulations, Nacho. Little girl for their first one. Woo! Hey,
What's up,
Steven.
Steven?
So, but tonight's going to be a great night. We've been looking forward to this. We got to talk to Harley, at the Bigfoot conference.
Yeah.
Man, what do you think about the Bigfoot conference?
It went well.
Yeah, we had a good time.
Yeah.
This
A
was
lot of
fun.
good people up there.
I think that the lineup this year was one of the best.
Yeah.
I really do. I think that this year's lineup, all the way across the board, was one of the best lineups that they had.
It was.
Yeah. So
So,
hey, Forest of Monsters.
Forest of Monsters. Hello.
So
Yeah, we got Harley Owens tonight. What do you think about that?
been looking forward to this.
Yeah. He's a great guy.
Yes,
He's a founder of Bigfoot Reports and Data and is a dedicated Bigfoot field researcher from East Tennessee. Now, he was initially a skeptic and then a life-changing encounter on September 23rd, 2020, where he discovered giant footprints. Now, that propelled him into cryptid research.
I can see how that would work.
Yeah. So since late 2023, he has actively pursued answers in the field, experiencing multiple personal encounters with Bigfoot and Dogman. Yeah.
Man, he was showing us some pictures.
Yeah.
Y'all better beware because
A
we're going to
mouse
have some
watering
awesome pictures.
Dogman.
I'm telling you, it's like.
Now, he theorizes a connection between these creatures and the Nephilim,
Okay.
noting electromagnetic anomalies alongside strange vocalizations. Through Bigfoot Reports and Data on platforms like Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook, he shares his journey. He does field trips and data and fostering a community where individuals can share their experiences without judgment. And he's a compelling voice for those exploring the Appalachian mysteries. He blends personal accounts with practical insights. So I want to welcome Harley Owens to the show.
What's up?
Hey,
Harley?
I'm very honored to be on here tonight, Jason. You've definitely made my head swell a little bit, but not too much.
You still get through the door, right? I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
You don't have to, well, you might still have to duck, but you won't have to
yeah.
turn sideways.
Yeah, exactly. I got duck still a little bit here and there, but it ain't too bad.
So we're glad to have you, man.
Yeah, thank you.
We
Hey, it's an
enjoyed
honor.
talking to you at the Bigfoot conference. And
Yeah, getting to meet you at the Bigfoot Festival
yeah,
there.
Yeah, we got hooked up at the festival. Yeah, we all ate dinner together.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
awesome. That was a good dinner too. We had fun.
good after dinner. Little drinky drinks. Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, just a couple drinky drinks.
That's it. That's all.
Yeah.
So, in your bio, when you first got into this by seeing the footprint, was you out just hunting, or what was you doing?
I didn't just find footprints. That very first picture that I pulled up, I seen a Bigfoot.
Oh wow! So it wasn't just footprints; it was actually seeing one also.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I wasn't even hunting. I was working on a job site.
Wow,
It's crazy.
Yeah, it definitely changed everything. I stopped hunting and fishing for 3 years after that, and Thanksgiving of 2023, I started to decide to go out and look for these things, and it's been a rabbit hole ever since.
And they seem to be that way too.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
mean,
So that one encounter, you stopped hunting and fishing?
Oh yeah, it traumatized me. I wouldn't go
Wow.
back into the woods. Because what do you do with something that big? You know,
Right.
a black bear. You know, you can handle that. You just make yourself look bigger in it and
Yeah.
make a lot of noise. You know, it's not that hard to scare off a black bear, but something that was twice the size of me and probably 3 or 4 times heavier. Yeah, I wasn't about to fool around and run into one of those things. But here I am now out there looking for them.
That's crazy.
Now, and since that you've been doing this, have you noticed though that a lot of people talk about the negative side of them, like, oh, they're mean and they're going to hurt you. Have you noticed that most of the time that they're just trying to bluff you, just try to get you to run out of that area, just not be there?
Yeah, absolutely. But ultimately, they're like us. There's good and bad. You know, you
Right.
can catch one on a wrong day, and it'll be pretty much chasing you out there. You know, and then most of the time they'll just leave you alone. But feral people, that's a whole different can of worms.
Yes, yes. We've got some maps given to us by park officials telling us where good places to look for feral people are.
Oh, Cades Cove was one of them, but
Yeah.
Cosby is too.
Yeah.
My stepdaughter's dad actually had a feral person encounter last July. He was out fishing, and he had the feeling he was being watched. And he turned around and looked, and he said he seen this person peeking out from behind a tree. He didn't think nothing about it. He thought it was maybe just a tweaker or something, and he moved further down the creek away from it.
Yeah.
Well, he's sitting there minding his own business. He's catching trout. And all of a sudden, he really has this feeling that he's being watched. It's just like amplified. And he said that he turned around, and there's this butt naked, mangy man standing there behind him, and it's one of its arms is behind its back. Well, next thing he know, it throwed down a big rock, and it took off running away from him. And he said he took off running away too. And I tried everywhere in the world. I was like, he had to have seen a Bigfoot. I don't think he's seen a feral person. And so I asked him, I said, are you sure it wasn't a Bigfoot? He said, no, this was a person. I was like, all right, you saw it, not me.
Right.
So he might have been wanting to hit him in the head with that rock.
That's what it
It's
sounds
like
like.
a stringer of fish.
Yeah.
Let's take a stringer of fish and maybe even, throw him in the basement. It puts the lotion on it.
Well, it's funny you mentioned the basement because right there close to where he saw this thing at was this old abandoned log cabin.
Oh, looky there.
Yeah.
That's insane, man.
Yeah, that's something I don't ever want to run into as a feral person. Much less the dog men, but people's just about bad enough nowadays to run into.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest with you, the two-legged people kind are probably the scariest.
Yeah.
Because you don't hear a whole lot of times Dogman killing people or of Bigfoot killing people. I mean, they're there, but it's not.
They get swept under the rug.
That's right. But the majority of the time, it's them just running you out of the area. But now the feral people side of it, they've made movies about that. That's what makes that scary.
Oh yeah, that one movie that just came out 28 days later or whatever it was. Yeah, that just that wasn't zombies. That was like feral people.
That's crazy.
So I'm gonna show the picture it started it all. Then I guess right here.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's I tried to pull up the original, but that's not the original. The original was without the bubble. Just bloated up. But for the longest time, let me set the backstory to that. So a week prior to seeing this thing, me and a buddy of mine went up there. So before I became a lineman, I didn't want to do what my dad done. My dad worked at LaFollette Utilities for 30 years, and he just recently retired from there. He wanted me to go to lineman school, do the lineman stuff, and straight out of high school, I didn't want to do it. I wanted to go straight into work, do something different. Although I had all the scholarships to go fish wherever I wanted to because I fished for Campbell County High School fishing team. Wow. And so I went to work. I worked for my parents' neighbors. They owned a tri-state auction and realty. It's an auction company. They travel all over auctioning off sawmills, all the equipment, stuff like that. So this was from Powell, Virginia. Like I said, we were there a week prior, and me and Cameron had decided to go talk to the owner of this place to figure out what all he wanted to sell. And, we strike up conversation with the guy, and first thing he tells us about is this bear. And mind you, bear. I'm like, okay, all right. I was like, is he a pretty good sized bear? He's like, yeah, but there's far worse things in the mountains than him. And I'm just like, okay, growing up, Bigfoot was the last thing on my mind, and I always believed in the Black Panthers because my 6th grade history teacher, bless his heart, he was always telling us about how him and his little girlfriend were up there in Stinking Creek, and they pulled off the side of the road, and this big old black cat jumps on the hood of the car, big old yellow eyes, and it's looking in on them. And so, Black Panthers, I've heard, me and Dad heard one scream one time when I was like 10 or 12 years old, and, it sounded like a woman screaming, and he told me to go get in the house. I was like, all right. And the first time I ever heard about Bigfoot, I was somewhere around in that same age. We had about 15 or 16 hogs. They were all about 250, 300 pounds. Well, one night they all went to screaming and raising Cain, and the dogs were barking. And that next morning, Dad went down there to go check on his hogs. Every one of them was just unalive, torn to shreds, and they weren't even eating on.
Wow.
And so it was either that day that Dad found those hogs dead, or the day after, he said it was the news popping up that the hunters in Georgia apparently unalived a Bigfoot, and it was in the freezer chest. Well, that turned out to be a big hoax.
Yeah,
it was somewhere around in that time, and I was like, okay, well, they aren't real. And so, going on through the rest of that week there in Virginia, nothing really too crazy happened. And every morning when we were going into that place, there was always wildlife. There was deer, turkey, squirrels, rabbit, whatever would run across the road in front of us there. And it's a big old valley, and you go down into this valley, and there's ridges on all sides of it. I mean, in the middle of Virginia. So if Friday rolled around, we were setting up the chairs and stuff for the auction, and Saturday rolled around, we had the auction, and my boss came up to me and he asked if I wanted to stay another week. Well, I told him, yeah, that's fine. And he sent the other guys elsewhere, to go get the next job site ready. So Sunday rolled around, it was raining on us, and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to go out there and get some work done. So I get out there, I hopped on the skid steer. I had the skid steer all to myself so I could do whatever I wanted. I had to just take my time, but I'm a go-getter. I wanted to get it done. So I had a paperwork full of whoever bought what. So I had to look at what all bought what, and I organized all our stuff together, and I called it a day. And so I was just sitting there. I was like, I'm going to walk around the wood line here. So I got off skid steer. I started looking around, and I find these footprints, and I'm like, okay, that's a big foot. I wear a size 12, and I was like, you know what? Somebody's either playing a trick on me, or there's a big hobo out here running around. And, I like I said, I had a foot down there next to him. I was like, there's no way this is a Bigfoot. So I decided, you know what? I'm just going to go home, go to the hotel, get out of this rain. I head back on a Monday. Nothing happened. Tuesday, I came back. Nothing happened. Wednesday, September 23rd, 2020, changed everything. I remember distinctly. I woke up late that morning. And so I'm like, I'm never going to hear the end of this from my boss. But he was always pretty lenient on me. I was the favorite. And so I get there to the first gate, and there's somebody sitting there with a trailer. And I'm like, okay, yep, I'm definitely going to hear it. So I unlocked that gate. We start heading down into the holler. And then that was when I really noticed the weirdness of it, because there was no deer, nothing, anything. And I'm like, all right. So I get to the second gate. I unlocked it. But at that second gate, there's a curve right there, and it takes you down to the old abandoned railroad tracks that sit down there with the old abandoned freight engine. And so I get in there. I hop out of the truck. I hopped on a skid steer. He had like 2 or 3 pallets of stuff that he had bought. And so I threw it on his trailer. He went on about his day. Never seen a soul for the rest of the day. It was just me and the woods. So I'm sitting there in the skid steer. I was playing a game on my phone. I think it was Angry Birds. I'm not 100% sure. All I know is I was playing a game. I was kicked back and relaxing. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, you know what? I'm starting to get hungry. So at this point, it's like 1:30, 1:40. I hopped out of the skid steer. I head over to the service truck to get a Coca-Cola and a good old peanut butter sandwich out of my cooler. I had that thing loaded down with peanut butter. All of a sudden, I hear this grouse grunt. And it was something that kind of caught me off guard because I grew up hunting fishing. And this is something that I've never really heard. So I'm sitting there and I'm looking. So, like mind you, I said I'm in this valley and there's ridges on both sides of this sawmill. I'm sitting there, I'm looking in the valley where I'm at and I don't see nothing, you know, and I'm like, okay, maybe this is the bear, you know, just coming in here to try and get into the dumpster and he's trying to get me out of here. So I'm just sitting there and I heard it again. And I'm like, all right. And at this point in time now, I'm looking up on this ridge line. Well, I start to see something moving through the foliage on the ridge. And I'm like, okay, I can just see something big and black moving through the foliage. I'm like, okay, this is a bear. Well, I look down, I look back up. I look down, look back up. When I look down, look back up the third time, I seen this thing doing the classic peekaboo thing.
Oh,
so it's just sitting there, just peeking back and forth. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a Bigfoot. These things are real. People aren't crazy. And so I'm 1,000 miles an hour in my brain. Like, what do I do? And so the only thing I knew of to do was pull my phone out and take a picture of it, because as sure as I would have tried to get a video, it would have been gone. So I pulled out my phone and zoomed it in, took the picture, and I was like, oh my gosh. Then the craziest thing happened. I had a brand new iPhone 8 Plus at the time, and it just mysteriously just shut off. And so I'm like, oh crap. And this thing, we're looking back and forth at each other, and then eventually it just turns around and walks further back up onto that ridge. I never moved so fast in my life. I jumped in that truck, I locked the doors, and I cracked the windows, and I'm just sitting there paranoid. I'm like, what do I do? I'm not going to call my boss and tell him I just seen a Bigfoot. And so
he's going to drug test you.
yeah. So I was sitting there, you know, going on around to dusky dark, and I was sitting there doing paperwork and all that stuff. I was tripping out every little noise. And so I'm sitting there, and then I start to hear these things hollering. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I've got the audio and stuff, and I've posted it on different places. I don't think I can pull it up on here, but these things were hollering and back and forth at each other. And I've actually had the audio analyzed, and it ranges from 250 hertz all the way up to 2,000 hertz. And they said there's more than one individual creature based on the tones and the sounds that was being made. So that definitely changed everything for me. Then Thursday roll around, I get back out there, you know, I find another trackway, because after I had left, that thing came down off of that ridge down into that sawmill area. And I could not do the strides that was in between these tracks. Like, it was just mind boggling to me. And then Thursday night, they started hollering again, but they were further away. And I recorded 2 sets of audio that night. So that was pretty wild. Then Friday rolled around. I was ready to get out of there, you know. I went to this drive-in diner called Robo's. And I got ordered my food and stuff. And I seen these old timers sitting at the table. I was like, if anybody's going to know what I seen, it's going to be these old boys. So I just sat down and I struck up conversation with them. You know, and they, you know, after a minute or two, I kind of dropped the bomb on them. I'm like, you old boys ever seen or heard anything weird in these woods? And they all got quiet. One of them looked at me and said, well, what'd you see or hear? And I said, this, you know, I showed them the picture. You know, I let them listen to the sounds. I showed them the footprints. I got quiet. One of them said, oh, well, those are the devil monkeys. I said, so Bigfoot? They're like, yeah, devil monkeys, wood boogers, mountain giants, Sasquatch. You know, it's all the same thing. And I was like, all right, that's all the validation I needed.
Right.
And little did I know that when I would return home, I faced the most ridicule that I would have ever faced in my life. It was everything other than what it was. I had people tell me the sounds were elk. I had people tell me it was coyotes, coon dogs, you know, and then I had people tell me that the picture was a bear, or, you know, it was just a shadow. And so I just shut it off. Never told anybody. And Like I stopped hunting and fishing for 3 years, and it traumatized me, man. And it wasn't until August of 2023 that I started sharing my story, you know. And if I got to give my wife credits, because she was the one that got me to come out of my shell about sharing it. And so I started going on podcasts and telling my story, and I was like, I got to get back out in the woods. And so Thanksgiving of 2023, I went back out deer hunting and overcame what I thought was a fear of the Bigfoot. And I've learned that there's a lot of other things to fear besides them. And so I'm just very thankful for my wife, and she's definitely one of my biggest supporters. Although she don't want nothing to do with them. She's had a bad experience, but we'll dive into that here in a minute. And it's just been an ever-ending rabbit hole since, just experiencing these things and seeing them and diving into it from a biblical point of view, and there's a lot of weird stuff that happens in areas with Bigfoot.
Right. Do you believe in the woo side of things? Because I know.
Oh yeah, I've experienced the woo. Most
Have
of
you?
it. Oh yeah, I've experienced the mind speak. I've seen the orbs. I've heard the metallic sounds in the woods. Just all kinds of crazy stuff.
Right. Yeah. Because I mean, a lot of the Native Americans believe in the orbs. They talk about the orbs and Bigfoot almost synonymously.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's interesting.
Now, whether these things can open portals, I do not know, but I would imagine that they know where they are, and maybe they can use them. I don't know if they can open them or not. Maybe something else does, and they just use them. So,
right.
But that's part of the woo and all that good stuff. And I initially thought that these things were apes. I really did. I really thought they were Gigantopithecus or some kind of relic human.
Right.
But then, as I started getting into the scripture and all that, but it was after I had my second encounter with these things. And that was just a week after starting my research, right in the heart of where the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, Scott Carpenter's stomping ground.
Yes. Yep. Which is not too far from where we live, where Scott Carpenter, stomped around in the woods. It's not very far away.
What did you think about his work in the portals? I know I watched one video where he was going down the trail.
Turkey Pin Trail. I know exactly which video you're talking about. That video is unbelievable.
It is. You actually see something coming out of that thing.
And the funny thing is that there was nothing there, and then you just see this thing just forming out of nowhere, and then it makes a perfect circle, and then this white creature is coming out of it. Whether it's a Bigfoot or not, I don't know, but it's something.
There's no telling what can come out of them. I mean, dimensional beings could be about anything.
Right. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, who's to say that they don't even go through time even? Because, I got somebody telling me the other day, it was a while back, but somebody said that they seen a pterodactyl flying in and out of traffic in Gatlinburg.
I seen a picture on Facebook of somebody. It looked like Gatlinburg, but there was a pterodactyl flying up. I should have saved it.
Wow!
But I did see that. It was wild.
Well, but then you got to go into the fact, of the extinction of the dinosaurs and all that stuff, and go at it from a biblical perspective. Day 6, man and dinosaur walking together. But well, that's something that I ain't gonna start preaching or nothing. So we'll just leave it at
that. That's funny. So I know that you've seen Dogman too, because we've got a photo.
The funny thing about this particular one, we never seen it. This happened April 28th of 2024. We go out turkey hunting. Mind you, this was the first time I've been spring turkey hunting at the time since the spring of 2020. So I was ready to go out and shoot me a bird. Mm-hmm. Well, we get out there, it's about 4:30, 5 o'clock, and the sun's finally starting to come up out here at the forks of the river. And we hit the trail heading up there. We hit the owl call. Them turkeys are gobbling off in the distance. We're not real sure where they're at, but we get a general direction. So we pulled out our map and looked, and back on the back of the wildlife management area, there's 3 big open fields that run right along the Tennessee River. I told him, I said, that's where they're going to be at. They're going to be out in the field strutting. So here we go. We start rucking it out there, and there's a part of that place where there's a bunch of swamp in there. So we're mucking around through there and getting to these fields. We get there and there's nothing, not a bird in sight. You know, after the sun had come up, they shut up. They were only gobbling on the roost. And so we get out there, and I told him it was about 8 o'clock. I said, I'm ready to get out of here, man. I'm done with it. He's like, you sure? I said, yeah. So we get to looking for a way to get back out because we weren't going to go back the way we came in. And I said, let's go this way. So we head on the back of this wildlife management area, and there's a shed, big old shed right there where they keep the tractors and all this stuff in. I said, let's go right here, and we'll go up this way. And because he was pulling up on his map that there was a trail that we could go up the creek bed and then hop onto this trail. So he was in front of me, I was behind him, and we weren't even 10, 15 yards into the woods, and I could hear something start following us. And I'm like, I'm not going to tell him there's something following us until he hears it, because I want him to experience it. Well, we get to hiking along up this creek bed. You know, I'm still hearing this thing behind us. And then we get to the point of where, you know, we have to pull ourselves up out of this creek bed. And, of course, there's a fallen tree right there. So I said, let's pull ourselves up right here, and we'll just keep on going. So he reaches up, tries to pull himself up. I had to give him a little bit of a boost from the foot, and he gets up there, and I just reached up and grabbed it and pulled myself up. And we get out of the creek bed, and we maybe get 25, 30 feet away from the creek bank, and all of a sudden he stops. He said, Harley, there's something following us. I said, yeah, it's been following us for about 20 minutes now. And at 8:28 a.m., I took a picture to the left of us from behind. I took a picture straight behind us, and then I took a picture to the right, and I said, all right, let's go. He said, what was it? I said, it's probably a Bigfoot. He said, whatever. I was like, well, you know, I do this stuff, you know. So we finally get out of there. He drops me off at home, and I started looking through the pictures. I looked at the first picture, nothing. Well, when I got to the second picture, I instantly seen it without having to zoom it in. But originally, I did think it was a Bigfoot. But then when I blew it up and actually looked at it, and I was like, oh, my gosh, that's a dogman. I sent it to him, and he said, dude, what the hell is that? And I said, that's a dogman. And I said, you're lucky you didn't see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Steven says the eyes look like Anubis, Egyptian Anubis.
You know, and that goes back into, you know, the mythology and all that stuff, you know, these dog-headed men, you know, with these other man-like creatures, you know, it's just, and that ties back in with the Nephilim and the fallen, you know, it was a seed war to stop the coming of Jesus Christ, you know, and they were trying to wipe out the pure human bloodline, you know, because Noah and his family, they were the only pure humans on the earth. And so I think that these things are reminiscence of that, you know, descendants, not true Nephilim, but descendants of the Nephilim. And we'll dive into that here shortly.
Okay.
That picture, man, is just awesome.
Yeah.
I believe you really caught it. I mean,
yeah, that's amazing.
It's not pareidolia. I know that.
Yeah.
No.
You know, when you showed us earlier and then we went to start the show, I told Jason, I was like, either that's the best case of pareidolia I've ever seen, or that is the true thing, man. Because that
You can see it snout.
you can see the snout, you can see the eyes, you can see the ears. I mean, that's not pareidolia. It is not.
No, you pull up that other one so people can kind of have a glimpse
Yes.
of what I was talking about there with the tree, the fallen tree.
Okay, let me get it up.
Yeah, so
So
like
you
I
can
said, I
see.
just pull myself up where it V's off. I grab the bottom part of the V to pull myself up out of that creek bed. So I could reach up and grab it from the creek bed.
Yeah, that
So
thing's.
I can reach at least 8.5 feet.
Yeah, that thing's 9 or 10 foot tall. Then
Mm-hmm.
every bit of it.
Yeah. And it's crazy to think something like that's running around the woods just 20-ish minutes from downtown Knoxville.
Right.
Wow.
But there's a backstory behind this place. So I had a guy call me that hunts up in Greenville, Tennessee, and he was chased out of the woods by some Bigfoot. He grew up next to this wildlife management area, and he had a buddy from high school that was out with his dad helping hang tree stands one day. And he said his buddy wandered away from his dad and went looking around the woods. And he said that he found a cave. Stop it. Daddy's busy.
Daddy.
He said that his buddy found his cave, and he heard something rummaging around through the cave. Mm-hmm. And he said he was standing there and looking, and he said what came out of that cave was a gray werewolf. And what he was telling me, that just goes to show that there's a population of these things living on this wildlife management area.
Wow.
And then that goes into, whether if these are government-made creatures, or if, they're natural creatures and all the conspiracy theory rabbit holes that you want to go down. But I think some of them are made. I definitely think that some of them may be natural. But then, of course, you've got some that's from the fallen.
Right.
Yeah, we just had Vic Cundiff on the show Thursday, and we talked about the Dogman. That's his specialty. He takes all his reports and thousands of reports, and you just can't dismiss that.
No. Well, I mean, even in Oak Ridge, you've got CERN right there,
yeah,
and there's a lot of shady stuff that goes on in Oak Ridge. They built the atomic bomb there, but what is CERN doing in there, and there's just so much Dogman stuff coming from East Tennessee now.
Yeah.
And I don't know if y'all are familiar, but in 2021, there was some quote unquote dog attacks in Cotton County.
Yeah.
But I won't really dig too much into that, but now I'll just say it wasn't dogs because the autopsy and all this stuff is just wild.
Right. Yeah, I think when that happened, we had someone on or something that was talking about it. I know somehow we got to that subject, and it might have been Matt Sieber.
Yeah, maybe.
That was on, I think. But what was funny is that they, Matt said the same thing, was that there's no way that this is a dog.
Mm-hmm. Well, they dug up 2 dead dogs, and they said that those were the dogs that done the attack, and those dogs were dead way before the attacks even happened.
Hey, the dead dogs came to life and killed
zombie dogs.
That's it. Yeah.
Well, I had a good friend of mine do a remote viewing on it and said that it was a zombie bear.
It might have been the cocaine bear.
There you go. Yeah, that's it. Cocaine bear came down. That's it. Hey, you don't know what you're doing when you're on that stuff, I guess.
You've seen the movie, right?
No.
Cocaine bear?
No.
And it's crazy that's all based on a true story from here.
Yeah. I know. That's insane, isn't it?
Yeah, it's wild, man.
Oh my goodness.
Steven said cocaine bear number 2.
That's awesome. That's funny.
Oh man.
Man. So since you've been doing your research, out of all the times that you go out, what is the percentage that you actually stumble across either evidence or one of these creatures, as far as Bigfoot or, Dogman, either one?
It's always more so finding the evidence than actually seeing them. It's not every time, you go in there and you'll see one, because they know how to stay hidden, especially with the mountain laurels, that's excellent source of cover for these things. But, I've taken several people out into this area, and some of them have never seen one, and if it's just meant to be, they'll be there, and I've got several buddies that, especially Riley, my buddy Riley from Midwest Mythos, he came down from Michigan, and he was tore up. He was tore up, man. He had his life changed, and he said, y'all Southern boys do it different. So, and even when my buddy George came out, you know, January 7th of 2024, you know, that was really the first time I've ever brought anybody out into that area, you know, when we seen a Bigfoot that we've named Alfalfa. You know, he was 8.5 foot tall. His hair was sticking up straight on top of his head like Alfalfa off of Little Rascals. That's why we named him Alfalfa, because it was sleeting and snowing and raining on us. And so it was just so real, man. And you know, I didn't know. George started chasing the thing. You know, I'm standing there. So how that happened? You know, we were going through my area, hiking and researching and all that stuff, and we get above the cemetery that's in my area. And I nudged him on the shoulder. I said, George, let's go down in this holler right here. He said, all right. You know, because there was high breaks, you know, and I was like, this is a trail that they're using, you know, because it's way too wide for deer or anything else. And so we go down in this holler, and we're staying in walkie contact with my buddy Robert Effler and his wife. I think y'all met the NCI guys. What am I talking about? Y'all know the NCI guys.
Yes.
Yeah, we met them at the Bigfoot Festival.
Y'all know George and Robert and all them.
Yeah.
And so we're staying in walkie contact with Robert and Michelle, and me and George are working our way around, and we get to the point of where we're on this ridge, but then there's a little valley, and then there's another ridge. And so as we're walking along, I catch a glimpse of something moving along the other ridge. And I seen it going behind a tree, and I stopped. I said, George, there he is. He said, Harley, that's a shadow. I said, George, that's a Bigfoot. He said, Harley, that's a shadow. I said, no, it's not. I said, stand right here. So I started walking towards it. I maybe get 10, 15 feet away from George, and I stepped on this branch that sounded like a shotgun going off. This Bigfoot braces himself on the tree, and he does this number to kind of lean to look for him, because I was where he couldn't see me. Mm-hmm. And the next thing I know, I hear George say, oh, shit. And the next thing I know, George comes running past me, and I'm still standing there trying to figure out what in the world is going on. And so at that point in time, George is already up there to the tree where the Bigfoot was at. He was already gone. And we get up there, and he said, look. I said, what? And right there in the mud was 3 perfect toes, and there was a slight pinky toe and a slight big toe in the mud. And I was like, well, where'd he go? And he said, I think he went this way. And so we get back in there, and there's a funnel, like just a huge funnel in the laurels. And that was the way that he took off in. Well, next thing you know, here comes Robert over the walkie-talkie. What in the world are y'all tore up over there? It's something coming like a bulldozer through the woods. And I was like, it's a Bigfoot. And then all of a sudden it just stopped. And you know, and the only reason Robert was tore up about it, you know, he heard it coming through the woods, but then there was a bunch of crows that came flying out of the woods and about hit him.
Oh my
Stephen
goodness.
says, like the old saying goes, I don't have to outrun it, just have to outrun you.
That's it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I will say, my wife definitely outrun me one time.
Is this her experience?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
It was our anniversary last year. We went out hiking. You know, it was the day before our birthday. It was our wedding anniversary. We go out there hiking. So this is a place called Wolf Creek Falls. It's in Cott County.
I'm going to start charging them for telling the story.
I would.
Yeah, that's $20.
So we go to this place called Wolf Creek.
Did he tell it at the Bigfoot conference? I didn't get to listen to the round table.
No, I didn't tell. I was telling people about it though at the conference. You know, I didn't tell it up on stage. But
that would have been $100.
Yeah, we go to this place called Wolf Creek Falls, and it was about a 3-hour hike. And we get up to this waterfall and stuff, you know, we're swimming and all that stuff. And when we come back down, we get down off the mountain into the valley, and she's in front of me, I'm behind her. We're walking out of the trail, and all of a sudden she says, there's something following us. I said, yeah, it's probably Bigfoot. She said, don't tell me that. I was like, yeah, it's probably a Bigfoot. Well, all of a sudden, here comes this big rock flying out. And she took off running. Boy, I'll tell you what, I've never seen little legs move so fast. And I said, don't run, don't run. Well, she fell and broke her ankle. So what was a 3-hour hike turned into a 4-hour hike. And next thing you know, it becomes a monsoon. I'm talking, this rain was coming down so hard, you could only see 20, 30 yards in front of you. It was just like a big sheet of rain. It was thundering and lightning. It was just so bad. You know, we get to the hospital and all that stuff, and it was broken, and she was in the boot for 2 months.
Oh no.
I'll have to find the picture and show it to you guys sometime. Her ankle was huge, dude. Like, it was bigger than a softball. Like, it was just so nasty. Like, the bruise was going down into her foot and upper leg. It was horrible.
Oh, that's insane. Overly overstoked Oscars ask, do you think it's human, ape, or something else?
I think they're a human hybrid.
Yeah.
As you know, Scott Carpenter, you know, has sent hair samples off to be tested. You know, he done a lot of stuff, you know, to try and get the DNA. And you know, the biggest technique that he would do was the bacon grease. Put the bacon grease up on a tree, put packing tape down below the grease, and when the Bigfoot would come in to lick the bacon grease, their hairs would get caught in that tape, and then they would pull away from the tape. And that was how you could get the skin tags. But you cannot get DNA straight from a Sasquatch's hair because they don't have a medulla. Medulla is a thin layer of tissue that we have in our hair. And so the DNA shows that the mitochondrial DNA of a Bigfoot is a human mother from the Middle East dating 2,000 years ago. And the father is something completely unknown to science. So,
right.
But I'll do you one even better. So, a buddy of mine, Bo Kennedy, has a podcast called the Bump Podcast. And he was emailing this woman. I think she was from Pennsylvania or somewhere up in there. But she had a relationship with a Bigfoot. And it visited her as an orb at first, or so it goes, you know, and it was communicating with her telepathically and all that stuff. And then her as a Bigfoot, you know, and it's communicating to her telepathically and all that stuff. And she got to the point of asking it what it was, the children of the Nephilim. It was telling her that the Bible was wrong and all this stuff. And I'm just sitting here like, the enemy is telling you that the Bible is wrong. Okay.
Huh.
That's crazy.
That's interesting. I've never heard that story though.
We've made
Was I cutting out?
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. Yeah.
I mean,
well, they're always listening.
No, that's crazy though. I've never heard that story before. But now I do know that, you know,
it's all the DNA coming out, and a lot of people aren't talking about it.
Right. And I do know that all the DNA studies that's ever been done, every single one of them have always come back with the female mitochondria and the unknown, you know, male subject every time. And they keep wanting to say that
Dogmen are the same way. Dogman DNA is the same way.
Oh, see, I've never heard anything about a Dogman DNA. Nothing.
Well, Scott, I believe, got some Dogman DNA. That I believe, if that's true, I believe that he did.
Wow.
If I'm not mistaken, it's from out there in Tellico.
Tellico?
Where the cemetery is that he used to research.
Yeah.
That's not far from us. Tellico.
Wow.
Yeah, because that's where he got that one Dogman on video that was right behind him, and you can see it peeking its muzzle out from behind him.
Did he get it tested, the DNA, and when did it come back?
It was the same way as the Bigfoot.
Human, then
human mother with the father unknown.
Wow.
Well, I mean, even if you go into Chat GPT, which I do not trust it. I only use it to test it out. But you know, Chat GPT, it knows a lot.
Hmm.
Does it really?
Most of the time, if we're searching something, if we use chat GPT, it tells us, oh, we can't, we do not give out information, blah blah blah.
Yeah,
Well,
We
what you got to do is you got to tell it that you want to play a game, and you have to give a code word for when it can't say yes, like use Apple or something. So,
wow.
but make
Yep.
sure it's one word. Make sure it answers you in one word. And I've got a big old video of what I done with it, and
Huh.
it's scary. It's scary. I always said that AI is not human artificial intelligence.
There's a lot of other people out there that are saying that it's already smarter than we are.
Oh yeah.
Overly overstoked Oscars ask us that's why they say it's contaminated, and that's what I've always heard.
Oh yeah,
Is that
absolutely. That's why I say it's contaminated, because it shows human DNA.
that female DNA? Yeah,
And
but
I will throw this in there. You know, if they were just an ape or something like that, they would already have them in a zoo by now.
right.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that the majority of the people who are looking for these things refuse to think that they're anything other than flesh and blood.
Mm-hmm.
And so they discount anything that's told to them that's outside of that spectrum. And in so they limit the fact of what it is that they're actually looking for. And I don't think that they'll ever find it. I mean, as long as they're discounting all the other parts that go with it, they're never going to find it. Never.
No, and that's just like me. It's like why me? Why do these things choose to show themselves to me? You know, is it because they pick up that I give off good energy? You know, they know that I have good intentions. You know, it could be a million things. You know, and I do have Rh negative blood, and there's a lot of people, you know, that dive into the Rh negative blood type. You know, because
Mhm.
apparently Nephilim bloodlines. So
Right.
that's probably why I'm so dang on tall.
Well, you know, I definitely believe they pick and choose who sees them.
Yeah.
David's Rh negative.
I'm Rh negative,
and he's
blood
seen
type,
one.
and I've seen one.
Well, there you go.
I
There you go.
have yet to catch one.
I've
Well,
seen.
I tell you what, boys, we'll plan a hike out there in my area, and we'll make it happen.
Let's do it.
Yeah, we've been wanting to
ready.
go. We're probably going this fall to the LBL
yeah.
camp for about a week.
Yeah.
So
We're wanting to go there.
Let me know. I'll go in.
you're around that
Yeah.
area, right?
Yeah, I'm out here living now. Yeah, I live about 45 minutes from the LBL.
Yeah.
Do you really? So,
Yeah.
are you on the Tennessee side?
Yeah, I'm on Tennessee side. I ain't living in Kentucky. You kidding me?
Go blue.
Good man.
No.
I
Go
hear
big
everybody
orange.
there too. So if you go up 24 through Nashville, is that the best way for us to get there?
I think
Or do we not have to
it's
go that far?
59, ain't it? Is it 59? I think 59's on Dover side. Yeah, it's 24. Yeah. Get
Yeah,
off
24.
at 24, go through Clarksville and go out to Dover. Yeah, you're right.
Yep. Yeah, I used to be a truck driver, so I've got most roads in America mapped in my head already.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
It's hard for me to get lost. But I was just up there this week, Friday, as a matter of fact. I had to drive all the way up to Paducah, Kentucky, pick up an 18-wheeler and bring it back here to Tennessee. So I passed the big signs going through there. Land between the lakes.
Which, I mean, even if you go out there and drive past Fort Campbell, man, Fort Campbell, driving by the fences and stuff through there, man, it gives a vibe.
Yeah. That's crazy. So you're really close to there, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you want to, there you can pull up that other picture that I put in there after that Dogman. Not a lot of people have seen this one, which I've posted it, but
Oh, that's a good one.
So that's actually from a back trail camera. You know, I do what Scott done, and I record behind me, and that was from December 9th of 2024. I headed out into a new portion of my research area, and I was hiking along through there, and I actually just walked right through where that thing was sitting at, and I go, so it's flat down there where it was at, and I walked in a straight line. I had my machete in hand, and I was cutting the brush, and I get up on top of this little hill there, and mind you, my camera's facing there behind me. You know, I turned, and then I turned back. You know, mind you, I didn't know this at the time. You know, but I had about every arm hair on my body was standing up, and I knew I was being watched right there. And I went back in the video straight to this part, and that thing was sitting there looking at me.
That's wild. Its eyes are very
sunken in and black.
Yeah. I even see its nose, and
you can see its cheekbone too. His cheekbone's real defined.
You can tell it don't have a neck.
Right. Yeah. And that most of them don't. The ones that I've seen, the heads sit on their shoulder. You know, they're real wide. You know, some of them, the one I've not seen no lanky ones. You know, they've all been pretty stocky and built.
Wow,
that's interesting.
That is interesting. Steven says, "Look at the wrinkles on the foreheads. You can see the expressions."
I think I have zoomed out the original image of that one. Let me pull it up and see. I think I've got it.
That's interesting, though. I mean, Jason and I are definitely going to have to get with you sometime to go do a investigation, because that'd be fun.
Oh yeah, man, we'd have nothing but a good time. Everybody that comes out always has a good time.
We've got some night vision goggles or glasses, and we've also got thermal too.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Plus, a lot of investigators are starting to use a lot of paranormal equipment.
Yeah.
To try to catch these, because I believe deep down that they are strange and paranormal. I mean,
right.
You can't explain it, so it's paranormal.
I will say the mind speak is the craziest part about all of it.
Yeah.
Because I've had it happen twice, and it just happens out of nowhere.
That's
the first time I experienced it. The first time I experienced it was New Year's Eve of 2023. I go out, I parked, and I maybe get 30, 40 yards away from the car, and all I hear is Jerome. And so I do a full 360, and I'm like, what? And then I'm like, that was in my head. And so I go further up the trail a little bit, and I look to my left, and I see an X structure off the trail, and I'm like, Jerome. And so I looked up what Jerome meant, and it's ancient Greek for elder or guardian.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And then the second time I experienced it was just this April. Me and a bunch of my buddies went out with me and 12 other people. We came out and done hiking and all that stuff. And we've actually got a documentary coming out about it called Operation Smoke. And this was the trip that changed my buddy Riley's life. We were down in this holler, you know, and I'm not going to spoil too much about it, but we were on our way back out, and I'm leading the pack, you know, because nobody else really knew the area. And I'm standing there, and all of a sudden my ears start ringing, like getting puzzy and cloudy. And then something says, "Get out of here now." But it wasn't, it was in English, but it was like a Native American voice. It just said, "Get out of here now." And I just started walking on, and everybody just followed in behind me because I didn't have no words to describe it. And that night I did not sleep a wink. I did not sleep at all. I was up all night sitting by the campfire keeping watch. And that was, I never told anybody that until a couple weeks after. I told them, you know, we all have a group text, and I'm like, guys, there's something I didn't tell you that happened out there, you know, and it was pretty scary.
Wow. That's crazy.
See,
we had somebody, Matt Sieber,
his son.
Yeah.
And no, it was Matt Sieber that had the mind speak. He said it said, "I'm here."
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Like when I had my experience, it was just a roadside crossing experience. Being a truck driver, my wife drove day shift. I drove nights, and we was on I-90 in Washington State, going westbound towards Seattle. That's where we had our drop off that next morning. And the wife was in bed or in the bunk sleeping, and I was driving. Like I said, it was 11 o'clock, about 4 car lengths ahead. You know, it was just a fog bank where, like, if a car was there, you would see just the taillights. You really couldn't make out the vehicle itself. And, you know, late at night on I-90, it doesn't matter where you are on I-90. It's like dead as dead could be on I-90. And so I'm just driving, and all of a sudden from the median, this Bigfoot comes up, goes across the road, and goes up the side of a mountain, but did all of this before I could get to him in the big truck at 65 miles an hour. And it happened just like that. And the size of it, I mean, it's hard to describe how big these things were, you know? And,
they're unfathomably fast.
Yeah. But you talk about the mind speak, you know, I never had mind speak or anything, but, and I don't know if what made me kind of glance that way to see him step onto the road, to cross the road, was just me seeing movement out of the corner of my eye, or if it was something else, but something caused me to look and see him cross the road to where I could see him fully cross the road, not just, you know, as he crossed the road. So it was pretty neat.
Open the door. Sit down and open the door.
Well, we're going to take a quick break, Harley. If we'll give you a chance to get a drink or whatever, go to the bathroom. I know we want to talk more about your recent sightings and
yeah,
before before the conference.
Yeah, the big 30-inch sighting. I don't want to hear about that. And then I don't know what it was, the footprint that was something like that. I want to know about that too.
Yeah, he's on mute.
Uh-oh. Did you mute yourself?
Uh-oh, he went out. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll get him back on the line.
Yeah, we're talking to Harley Owens, and this is a good show. Good night. And remember, you can find us at paranormal411.org, Paranormal 411 on Facebook, YouTube, X, and Rumble. We also have a book out, East Tennessee Hauntings and Lore Edition 2. It's available on Amazon, or you go to our website at paranormal411.org. Click the link. Join us. When we come back from this quick break, please don't leave, and we'll finish talking to Harley.
All right.
In the heart of Madisonville, Tennessee, lies a pizzeria like no other. Step through the door of Legends and Lore Pizzeria and be transported to a realm where paranormal and cryptid encounters, along with mouth-watering pizza, go hand in hand. Meet Eddie and his crew, who serve up slices of the supernatural along with the best pies in town. With the walls adorned with eerie artifacts, indulge in piping hot slices that melt in your mouth and tease your taste buds. And it's not just the locals who love the incredible pizza. Legends and Lore has been selected as the best pizza joint in all of Monroe County. As lovers of everything pizza and the paranormal, the owners have mastered the art of crafting unforgettable combinations that will leave you wanting more. To stay connected with this mystical eatery, follow Legends and Lore Pizzeria on Facebook, where tales of their latest creations and upcoming specials will be shared. Make sure to browse their custom menu, featuring legendary pizzas like the Chupacabra Ranch and the Exorcist. So, whether you have an appetite for the supernatural or simply seek the best pizza in town, Legends and Lore is the place to be. Come for the unforgettable flavors, stay for the captivating stories, and find yourself in a world where legends and pizza collide.
What if the world we know is merely a fraction of reality? What if there are forces, entities, and phenomena that exist just beyond our comprehension in the shadows of the unknown? Welcome to Paranormal 411, your gateway to the unexplained and the downright chilling.
Get ready to rock with the electrifying sound of Catalyst, a band that's sure to leave you wanting more. With their powerful lyrics and killer riffs, Catalyst is a great sound in the world of rock music. You can listen and find Catalyst on Bandcamp, or go to the link at paranormal411.org and click on their banner.
Hey.
All right, we are back.
We're back.
We got some bad news.
Terrible news.
Yeah.
Harley.
Go
ahead.
The government got him.
Yep. His wife just said the government got him.
Yeah, he unfortunately his computer died and his phone will not work.
Oh, Jason.
And
Jason Finch, that is our really good friends. Catalyst, East Tennessee. If you go into our website, paranormal411.org, we've got a link for them on there because they let us use their music and stuff, but they're really good friends of ours. And that song is one of my favorites.
It is.
Run,
yeah.
Red, Run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Harley will be back on a Thursday to do part 2. He unfortunately his computer went berserk and
he said he can't get back on. Yeah, Catalyst. Yep.
But
Catalyst, East Tennessee. Again, you could go on to paranormal411.org. Catalyst. Yep. Catalyst is the name of the band. If you go on to paranormal411.org, you could click. We've got a link for them on that front page, and it'll take you to, I think it's their Bandcamp site.
Yeah.
And it's got all their albums, all their music, and you can sit there and listen to every bit of it right there. Or you could purchase it and everything. So really good. They're really good guys too.
So we got a fill-in for Harley for right now for the second hour.
Yes.
Stephen Watson. We've had him on the show before, and he actually spoke at the Bigfoot conference.
Yes.
I sat down and listened to him for a little bit, and we've had him on before. But Stephen, I appreciate you accepting this, and
yes,
we'll bring you on, buddy.
What's
Hey,
up, Steve?
The government got him. He had to go.
That's exactly what it sounds like. The government got him. Uh-oh.
So what do you think about that Dogman picture he had?
Dude, that's unreal. That the definition and the facial features of that thing is just unreal. It's the eyes is what captivate me. That's what was like drawing me in. I kept on looking. I was like wishing I could zoom in, but it just wouldn't zoom in. But I was like, dude, why does that look like every picture of Anubis has ever been, portrayed?
Yeah.
Totally what I was getting, like Anubis, and then like he spoke, all the other, past with him. It was
Right.
even the snout, the ears, the rounded head. Oh, it was weird.
Yeah. When that happened, I was like, he started showing those photos before we even started the show, and I was like, oh, that's
The first thing I noticed was the eyes.
yeah, and I was like,
Yeah,
look, I'm the first to say blob squatches and pareidolia all day long, but you can't pick that. That's not pareidolia. That's real. That was real.
that brown, blackish looking hide stuck clear out of that green shrubs and everything. Wherever he took that out, that was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the gods have spoken, and he's part of the elite that can see these things.
Right.
Yeah.
It's that bloodline he's got. I guarantee it.
Right. Well, maybe if we go out, maybe I'll be able to see them.
Maybe. I mean,
I've got that.
when you do,
RH
I'll be in the
negative.
truck.
No, you won't. I'm going to handcuff you to me, Jason.
I'll
so
be
you
at
can't go
camp.
running.
I'll be at camp. See, I'm the camp guy. I got to watch the camp.
We'll get you off in there, Jason.
See, we'll get you there.
I can take it going off pretty good places. We'll get you there.
Yes.
So how'd you like the Bigfoot conference this year?
I had a good time. I had a really good time. I don't have a big fear speaking in front of people, but I'm like, well, they didn't have no one else talking. I'll jump up here and share a little bit. And I was going to tell my encounter there, but I had to shorten it. Like that whole was probably like a 45-minute holding thing. Had to down to like 2 minutes, if that, or minute that. Because the guy in front of me kept on got long winded. He had a good story though, but I kind of got up there. But overall, we had a good time. Got to meet Jesse and Joe from Hellbit Holler. Hung out with you all. And y'all gave me an amazing gift, and thank y'all again for that. That's sitting right inside my gun cabinet.
Awesome.
Great.
Awesome.
So, it was a good time. We had a good time. Learned a lot, especially when RPG did that. Hang on, just did that whole pressure chamber theory thing. That was neat. That was really neat.
What?
Yeah, we don't get to.
We didn't get
have
to
sit at the
listen.
booth. We don't get to listen hardly.
So many people are asking for signatures. We don't get to leave anywhere.
But I did go to the bathroom and listen. I listened to you and that other guy that we had talked to at the booth.
I know you took off for a minute.
Yeah, I did.
That was a theory, and he was right, because I've not heard of it. And he said, "I'll give you $20 right now if anybody else has heard it." And I never heard of it. It's pretty neat.
Huh.
So, yeah, but overall, good time. Good time. I looked into some more of that nesting witch.
Yes.
That was a pretty interesting read from that guy who was telling us about it. He was right. There's only been 3 other, including us, in this area, has been only seen called the nesting witch. Yeah,
and they're called the nesting witch because they
pretty much are nesting whatever this host. They're the host, so they're nesting and nurturing whatever this is. This I've read birds, other types of animals have cut when they cut themselves from stern to like belly button and open up. These animals come out of some sort.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. Real creepy too.
It sounds creepy the way he was telling it.
Gives me very big Lilith vibes though, because it's always around water or found in water in graveyards.
Yeah, he said it was in a graveyard up there in Gatlinburg somewhere.
Yeah, that's what he did say. That was pretty interesting. I hope it. I hope it's off the actual grounds, because they're not supposed to be buried on hollow ground and stuff like that. That'd be interesting to go find.
So, what's Arcane Discoveries got planned? Anything?
Well, today actually, I'm fixing to go back to my mom. I went to my mom's today and took some of my kiddos over there and let them spend some time. And while we was there, my sister's like, "Did I tell you what happened the other morning?" And I said, "No, you didn't." So one morning she gets up and comes to my house and babysits for me while I'm going to the work and stuff like me and the wife. And she says she walked outside and heard a twig snap. And my sister, she's not fully deaf, but she's sort of there to a certain level. She wears hearing aids. She can hear just fine. If anything, they've always amplified her hearing tenfold, because I'll take her out sometimes. Hey, when we was younger, especially, hey, did you hear that? Can you hear that over there? Stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But she was walking to her car. They kind of live off on the backside of like the Hopewell and Charleston area down there in Bradley County, and was coming around the back of the house one morning. It was dark out. She said she heard "Help Me" come from the woods.
Oh,
So I've got to go figure that out. I don't know what's going on at my mom's house, but that's just going to have to be.
that's interesting.
Yeah, and we had a while back, kind of on that area. A while back, they had a dog get attacked by, looked like to me, some type of feline, because there's 2 puncture wounds on the back of this dog. She lived, but she was torn up, and this isn't the first time it's happened. She'd been bit 2 or 3 other times.
Wow.
And my mom's even heard some weird yells and screams and hollers out there.
Wow. Do you think that's like a panther?
Not with this that just happened this week with hearing "Help Me" in the woods. I don't think so.
I think that's Bigfoot.
It very well could be.
I know a lot of lore and legends say that, especially when it comes to women and children, they will do stuff like that, like help me, or have baby, or sound like a baby crying, or things like that, to try to lure you off into the woods to get you lost, and then do whatever. They kidnap you. They do whatever they do.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Come to think of it, they've had 2 other dogs disappear, and I think some of the neighbors from when I was a kid, their dogs disappeared in that same. Come to think of it, that just made me think of it. Yeah, I'm gonna have to put a trail camera back out there. It's a good thing I can get cell service, so whatever trips it will send it right to me.
Oh, see, that's awesome. I mean, because then it takes a picture and you get it
Immediately. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Now, last fall, I did have a camera out there because we was going to try to do some bow hunting or maybe some deer hunting out there. They had a lot of deer come through, and there was a lot of pictures that got tripped with nothing there. I didn't see nothing significant, but there would be like burst of 5 pictures that would happen in a matter of minutes, and each minute had probably like 20 something photos. So that's how sensitive this camera is.
Wow. And still nothing?
Nothing, but one of them had a little white light. Nothing significant. I would call maybe probably a bug, but nothing really that stood out to anything.
Baby girl says, I got feathers and I say balk balk. I live in the woods and I'm not being
supper. It's not going to be supper.
I
don't get off the porch after dark.
I don't blame one bit. There's in these woods now, I tell you.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm the weird one. I hear weird things and I go running towards it.
Yeah.
I would at least shine a light on it first.
See, if I was outside and something crazy that I've never heard before started happening, I don't think I would think about it. I would just be like, what is that?
Do you think you'd go grab your gun? I would definitely.
I definitely would. Whether, I've always had a buddy, a real good friend growing up. He said we would go when his kids and teenagers out to these places that were haunted. And when we were that young back then, we always carried 22s and shotguns with us because we'd be coon hunting or something like that. Every time we was at these haunted places, he had one of them 22s with him. Like, what are you going to do with that thing?
I ain't going to help you.
It's going to make you feel better. He said, you're going to shoot rounds through a hollow, through nothing that's there. That's
you might make it mad.
Yeah, definitely. funny, people talk about not coming out, and how I've mentioned to y'all the other night that, I don't really want to see one of these things because, like Harley's story, he quit hunting for 3 years.
Yeah.
That just shows you the fear these things can put into you. I mean, I've always tried to teach my kids and stuff while we're out in the woods. My papa always taught us, you're the biggest bass predator in the woods. But then you're like, yes, and you're like, I don't know about that anymore.
Yeah, I mean, when you take it into consideration that these other creatures are there, we're definitely not the apex predator.
No.
If they wanted to, they could probably sneak up on you and grab you before you even knew it.
And they're probably there before you even know it too.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just, like Jens were touching on tonight, the whole, like the noises and the portals possibly opening and such things like that. They be translucent floating through her and you never know it.
Yes.
I mean, who never knows? Like I was mentioning in one of the comments, Ron Moorhead's book talked about, the vibration. We all give up some type of energy, some type of vibration.
Yep.
They vibrate at a higher frequency that lets them be, translucent, quick, and whatever thing else, and be able to pop in and out of our reality into their reality. And they could be something different in their reality compared to what they are in our reality.
Well, and when you look at it with that lens on it, if it's from another dimension, a higher dimensional plane, so anything from a higher dimensional plane could go to any dimensional plane below its dimension. Just like we're supposedly 3-dimensional, we could see anything that's in this dimension or lower, all the way to the first dimension, right?
Right.
We can't see out of this though. That's our fishbowl, right? We can't see out of this third dimension. We can speculate, but we can't really see out of it.
Right, exactly.
So if these things are 5th, 6th, 7th dimensional creatures, then when they appear to us as they appear to us, it's because they choose to appear in this dimension itself. And then I think, like you said, they could at a second, that's why you see a trackway go off and then bam, it ends in the middle of nothingness. It's just all of a sudden there's no more tracks. Because it's not that it wasn't there. It just went on to the next dimension.
That's exactly it. They're there and then they're just gone the next second. It's unexplainable. It's weird.
Yeah.
And we'll never know. We'll never know unless we get to somehow be able to figure out to put ourselves in that in between. And there could be there's a theory I heard here not too long ago that I think it was actually, when I first started looking up some stuff around here, I come across Harley stuff not too long ago, and just now introduced myself really not too long ago. And he was talking about theory, him and I think oh shucks, I think it was Tony from the Confessional, to be honest. And they were talking about when the woods get quiet and everything, and all this stuff starts happening, maybe it's not that the predator's around, maybe it's you yourself in that in between with them, and then when you have the experiences, you're both stuck in the middle of this in between, and one of y'all are fishing across over the other, and that just gives you thought of, well, if that's the case, these people that disappear off the face of the earth, what if they go too far in that in between, and then they're gone on the other side, we never see them again or never find anything of them,
right?
So that's the big theory I've been working on here lately too, is that in between and what's going on. The upside down.
Yep, that's it. The upside down.
Yep.
When it comes to stuff like that, I love, speculation. Speculations is fun because you can play these scenarios in your head and try to see if you play them far enough, you can see if certain things match, right? And then that's how we could come up with theories and get a better grasp on what's actually going on. And so, when you sit around and speculate and try to figure out what's going on, like you said, with the quietness, I've had that happen before where I was out and it was weird that everything got quiet. It's when we was going to the witches circle, if you remember that one time.
Yeah.
I mean, you're in the middle of the woods walking to the witch's circle, and way off in the distance, you could hear birds on any side around you.
Mhm.
On the way there, we saw, I can't tell you how many deer. It was there was just deer everywhere.
Right.
When we got there walking towards the witch's circle, it was eerily quiet. There wasn't a bug sound. There wasn't bird sounds. It was nothing. I mean, it was just like in this bubble. It was this one area that was nothing that you could walk through and go out the other side. And there were sounds on both sides. But when you was walking through it, I was just like, this area gives me it just freaks you out because you just feel the hair, just standing up on your neck and everything. And you're like, something's just not right about this area.
Right. And it's just maybe us falling in that in between these areas that have something, either it's got to be like longitude and latitude lines, or just something in the earth itself. There's some type of mass energy in these areas that's giving something off, and mixing with our energy with whatever's on the other side's energy, we all just mix and it makes this opening. And our domesticated minds are not able to fully see and grasp what's actually going on. So it scares us and it freaks us out.
Yep. That's fact.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just
That's fact.
from a long time ago, they were able to see these demons and these spirits and everything else and do away with them and do what was right. Now we speculate, like you said, and come up with theories and just kind of have a thought process.
Right. Yeah. I don't know, for me, when we went to Chickamauga,
Yeah.
the feeling that I had at Chickamauga, I've only, and it was probably, I can't describe how it felt, because I mean, I can, but it's not like anything that I've ever felt before in my life.
Mm-hmm.
It really was the first time I ever had those feelings. I mean, that intense, where I felt like something was 100-pound sack was set on my shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt sick to my stomach. We got out of the vehicle at one of the areas to read the stuff that was going on there and all that stuff. And, I literally felt like I was going to throw up.
Mm-hmm.
And, in that same area, Jason and his daughter both heard a horse whinny, and that same area they lost, what was it, like 10 horses due to like cannon fire or something like that?
The sign said so many soldiers were killed and so many horses were lost, and I swear it just went, and I was like, what the crap?
Yeah.
Did you take it up? And she said, no, I heard it too. It was a horse.
Yeah.
And that's funny you talk about that feeling that you had in that area. I was just today about a place that we used to go to when we was younger, was the Haunted Bridge in Polk County.
Mm-hmm.
And I can remember, you talking about that even makes me think more about that place. Is I had that same feeling the very first time I went there. It had been talked about, and we had never went out there. That first time we went out there, I'll admit it. I'm man enough to admit it. I was eating the back seat of my buddy's truck, and I'm like, dude, I do not feel right out, dude. Like, we got to go. I would not take my face out of the back of that seat. But at night, they end up seeing a white apparition cross behind the taillights. And that's happened many, 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 many times that we've been out there. We've been out there several dozen times, and that's the same thing that happens. But every time you go out there, you have that weighted feeling of something going on. Like the worst time it ever felt so weighted was out there. We take a friend of ours that's never experienced something like this, and he was like, he's out there talking crap on the bridge. And I'm like, dude, don't mess with her. Don't. Dude, don't. For one, I'm here and I'm with her, and for two, it's just not end well.
Mm-hmm.
Had a friend ended up was doing the same thing. He had scratch marks across the back of his kidneys, like his kidney area on his back, and ended up having like some sickness that had like a kidney infection or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
But as I was saying, we get back in the car and he's talking all this crap, and it's warm out. It was warm out that particular summer evening, and we had sunroof open, we had all 4 windows down, that old Impala, Chevrolet Impala, and we're just sitting there, and all of a sudden a cool breeze comes through her. I mean, a very cold breeze, and everything just started feeling heavy. And next thing you know, you feel like this cylinder of air, like cold Arctic air is the best way I can describe it, come down through the sunroof into the center console and just kind of disperse through the car. And then you splash in the water, and I was like, all right, you better go. She's coming out of water after us. Let's get out of here, That's enough. But
Overly overstoked Oscar says you do not mock the unknown, and that's a fact. That's one of the worst things that you can do is go into a paranormal situation and start trying to provoke things. Jason and I do a talk on the paranormal and stuff, kind of like a paranormal 101 thing. And that's one of the things that we definitely say do not do. You never do the provoking, because if they are what we think that they are most of the time, then they were people. And you definitely don't want to
What happened?
Oh, there. Sorry.
There you are.
Background. Sorry.
That might have been me hitting a button or something. I don't know.
No, I think it was me. I was trying to adjust something on my end, but yeah, he ends up telling. And even what got me thinking about that area today was I got thinking about these eyes we seen one time down there. We seen these 2 big sets of eyes right in the wood line. I remember them now being very tall off the ground, and we pulled up at the bridge. Next thing we know, this thing took off. The crazy part is there was just a house right up the road, like 20 something yards from this wood line where this thing was.
Uh-oh. I'll have to bring him back on, Jason.
Oh,
hold on. Yep.
Boom.
There you are.
The government's after all of us.
That's it.
His beard turned off the live. That's funny.
So beard got him.
Yeah, that's it.
Lord. So what was that? You want to finish that story?
Oh, yeah. One of the many times we had been down there was one time we come around the curve, and about 20 something yards down there by the creek that's down there, there's a wood line. There's a house about 20 something odd feet up from it. And I remember seeing these 2 big bright eyes standing there, I'm guessing, by the wood line. And as we got closer, we seen it, and we're just like, what in the world is that? And it just, I don't remember if it vanished. I wouldn't say vanished, but it got away pretty freaking quick. And I remember these set of eyes being very, very tall off the ground. I mean, very tall off the ground. We went on to the bridge. Come think of it, I don't think that night we had anything paranormal wise happen.
Huh.
Yeah.
Jason saw some red eyes when we was at the cemetery.
Yeah, we caught it on camera too.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's pretty wild. I got in a truck at night.
Yep. All the batteries started draining on everything that we had.
Well, it took my flashlight away.
That was his blankie, he couldn't have
That's my security. I didn't feel safe.
Yeah. We talked, I'd mentioned, Harley mentioned about a panther, and I mentioned I shot at one. I can tell you that one kind of real quick if you want.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So one night we was out there at the farm, my dad and them's place, and we hunted out there all the time, like we normally did. And the weeks before this, we had some cattle. We had one cow go missing. She ended up getting found. She was eating on like everything had been like normal coyotes and stuff like that. Well, we had a vet come out. Well, he was coming out anyway, so we had him go out there and look at this carcass that was left. and there was big fang marks in like the upper neck area, kind of like what you would call like upper shoulder between the neck and stuff like that, kind of around the spinal cord. So whatever this thing was, bit it right against the spinal cord, and it went. He said, "This dog," I said, "that ain't canine, that ain't canine bites." He said, well, "Whatever these fang things are, you just had no dog off it." He was funny, but he said, "Whatever this thing was, it jumped on this cow's back and drug her to the ground, just left her there to die. It predated on her." So we had that happen. We had a calf go missing. I found over by a cave. There's a small cave on the family farm on the ridge side. I found one by it when we was out looking for it. But, even we heard it, heard it from the house. My cousin would come by on the 4-wheeler like, "Hey, did you hear the panther over there the other night?" And we're like, "The panther? What are you talking about?" Like, "Oh yeah, that old black panther runs the ridge." I said, "No, we ain't heard it." Well, we ended up hearing it a couple times and listening to it. And it was just the god awfulest scream you'd ever heard come off top of that ridge. Everybody that lived around there heard it. And they was like, "God dang, what is that?"
Wow.
We were one night over by that way because my papa owned that land. There was a cell tower on that land, on that big old ridge. So we'd go by and keep an eye on it every now and again. At top of the hill, we kind of was turning in and looked up, and there was this black cat looking thing run across the road that's up at the top, or about midway it run across. We thought, "Oh boy." He didn't have to my cousin because he's funny. He's, "Boy, there goes Keisha." I said, "What?" He said, "We're gonna call her Keisha." And I said, "Okay, whatever, dude." Every time we'd hear a holler or something at night out that way, we'd said, "Oh, there's Keisha, she's out hollering." Well, anyways, me and Dad, we go out coon hunting one night, in the back portion of the family farm. And this particular night, I had an old Redbone, old Cletus. He was a real good dog. I mean, a real good dog. He was real smart. I could take him off the lead and he'll hang right beside me until I tell him to take off. Well, this night he would not get out from underneath my feet. I mean, would not leave my feet, like in front of my feet. I don't know what he was doing. He never acted this way. We had another dog with us. Dad was leading it, was Jake, the little black and tan pup. So he was just being trained. Of course, he's a pup. He's jumping around excited to be out there. But Cletus, he was not acting right. Well, we get into the woods, and I'm fooling with Cletus. I'm like, "All right, well, go get him. Go skid him." And he just would not. And I'm fussing with the dog. I hear Jake over beside me. Dad's got him, and he's just going nuts, just chawing, just row, row, row. He's just going wild. I'm trying to fight with Jake, get him out underneath my feet. My dad said, "Stop, look." And I'm like, "What?" And I look up, and I had one of these, the lights that you had on your hat back then.
Mm-hmm.
The battery, big old battery on your hip with a cable come up over here, big old lantern on your head. And I had it, and I looked up, and all you saw was the biggest white teeth you've ever seen in your life, with glowing yellow eyes. I mean, just a glowing, sitting there. I mean, body just as black would be. It wasn't as tall as I thought it would be. At the shoulder, it was like, it kind of like reminded me of like a pygmy version, a smaller version. It wasn't very tall, it wasn't very long, but it was jet black. I could count the whiskers on that thing. It was so close.
Wow.
It's just sitting there hissing at us and growling. It's standing its ground. I've got Cletus. His hair stand up on his back. I'm like, "All right, Dad, what do we do?" He said, "Shoot it." I said, "I can't move real fast. The gun's on my right shoulder." And I had a little 22 Marlin at the time. It was on a sling. I just had it slung on my right shoulder. And I'm just kind of like, I'm going to sling this gun off my shoulder real fast and just dump it and see what happens. He said, "Well, when you get ready, I'm turning this dog loose." I said, "All right." Cletus is ready to go too. So I just flip it all of a sudden real fast. And I just dump the gun probably held like 12, 13 bullets. I just pulled the trigger till it started clicking. And it took off. My dogs took off. And I never did find, like I said, I scared shot. I just pulled up and pop, 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 was shooting away.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if I ever hit it or not for sure. I never did find any blood, but it never did come back. So luckily I got my dogs back and everything else.
Next time, answer your phone when your daughter calls.
Sorry. And but yeah. But yeah, that's what happened. I just unloaded.
Wow.
And
Yeah,
that's
crazy.
Yeah.
And it never did show back up again.
I know I had a sighting, sort of. I mean, it was a Black Panther for sure, but it was when Tellico Village, when they first started building the road out there.
Mm.
And hey, Jason, thank you,
Jason.
Thank you for
Have a good
coming
night.
on. Yeah, they were just starting to build the road out there, and we would go out there and ride 4-wheelers and stuff, and it was dark. I mean, when we had been on one of their steamrollers and everything, they leave the keys in this stuff. So, I mean, we heard it screaming. I didn't actually see it. I seen prints of it. It was in a dried up pond, and I seen the prints, and you could hear it screaming like it was a baby crying. But I never did see it. But I do believe it was a Black Panther, or some kind of big cat.
Right.
One night coming down the mountain just below, between what we call Smiley's Knob and the Turkey Creek Overlook, just one night just happened to look up just to the right. Me and my wife, back when we was dating, I happened to look up to my right, and there was this back half of a big brown cat. It was mountain lion, no ifs and buts about it. That's what it was, because it was the tail that got me. I seen the big brown body, and then it was the tail. I was like, there you are. I've heard stories about you too.
That's what's crazy is that, you know, the animals we know is in the woods, you still don't even see that often.
Mm-hmm.
And so it makes sense of why most people don't really see a lot of Bigfoot and Dogman and things like that, you know?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's just like the red wolf we run into. No, they're not supposed to be there.
Yeah. They supposedly introduced them and then took them back out.
Yeah. And now they're starting to post everything about them over in Smoky Mountains, warning people, hey, watch out for them. So, I mean, be down this farther south, you know.
Right.
I think that was a total accident, I think, on its part and our part running into it.
Was he big?
Oh, yeah, he was massive. I mean, he was just, tall. I mean, just, I couldn't tell you exact measurements, but good grief, it was just huge. It made the ones at the zoo, well, I'd say probably about the ones I've seen at Knoxville Zoo look a little smaller, but this thing, it was a male and it was massive. I mean, he was just built, stocky and blocky, and that beautiful red color. He had them beautiful red hair, them ears and color. Oh, it was just a beautiful animal, you know. But I remember telling Papa I run into. He said, "Why didn't you shoot it?" I'm like, underneath the state federal pen for that.
Yeah, well, you better leave it where you shot it.
Yeah. Of course, it didn't bother me. It just thought I was a turkey, I guess.
He walked out like, that ain't no turkey.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, if a big turkey you are, why you got arms? Anyway.
That's hilarious.
Oh yeah.
Well, I guess we're gonna get off here. End the show. If you want to tell everybody again, I know you've said it before on here, but tell everybody where they can find you and everything.
Yeah.
All right. Well, like I said before, my name is Steven. I've run a small group called Arcane Discoveries. You can find us on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, and now Facebook. I created this small Facebook group, and you can go on and share your stories and stuff like that. If you want to get in hold of me and talk to me about what you've run into and stuff like that, or you're from our area, you can email me at arcanediscoveries423@gmail.com. That's where you can find me. Hit me up.
Awesome.
All right. I appreciate you accepting that link and coming on.
Yeah, thank you.
They must have got Harley.
Yeah. Good. It's getting real good with him.
I know.
Yeah.
Government said no more you tonight.
That's it. It said,
Yep.
Your internet, sir, is now been taken off.
Yeah, his FBI, he just other end, like cut the line.
That's it. Yeah, you see the guy over there with the big bolt cutters.
All right, Stephen. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Stephen.
Yeah.
You have a good night.
Y'all
All
too.
right.
Thank you.
Bye.
Baby girl Casper says, thanks for sharing.
Stephen Watson.
Stephen Watson.
Great guy.
Yeah.
I really like him.
Yeah.
He got some good stories,
He
too.
does. And he tells them really well.
Yeah.
It is terrible that Harley didn't
Yeah.
finish the show.
Yeah, he had
Computer
something happen.
problems.
I don't know
Yeah.
what happened, but he was having problems a little bit at the first of it.
Yeah.
But it must have got to it.
Yeah. Thank you, Randy.
We're definitely going to get him back on a Thursday to finish out the hour.
Yeah. There will be round 2.
Yeah.
No. So.
And remember, he's got a new documentary coming out called Project Smoke.
Yeah.
So I don't
Can't
know
wait
when the
to see.
release date is, but I know that he's been working on it. And
He has a Facebook, does he?
Yeah,
not?
it's Bigfoot Reports and Data. He's got a lot of stuff on there.
I'd say some of those pictures plus more.
Yeah.
So definitely check him out.
That freaking Dogman picture was crazy.
No, that dog. I'm telling you, when we before the show and he put that up there, I was like, that's actually good.
Yeah.
Because we've been shown a lot of things, and half the time I'm like, okay, it's pareidolia. I don't even see it. If I can't, if it has to have a red circle for me to see it, I'm just saying it's pareidolia. And you don't need no red circle with that.
No,
at all.
It looks like Anubis.
Yeah, I
Reborn.
was when we got ready to start the show and put him in the background and everything. I was like, Jason, either that's the best pareidolia I've ever seen, or that's real. I was like, and I'm leaning towards that being real. That was fantastic.
Yeah,
and maybe when he comes back on, we'll have more pictures.
I'm going to predict something.
Uh-oh.
Harley Owens, remember his name, because I believe he'll be the first with unbelievable evidence.
Yeah.
Or believable evidence, should I say.
Well.
Might turn the tide. I really think so. I think he's onto a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of good pictures.
And a lot more information and evidence than I've seen from about anybody.
Yeah.
As far as pictures.
Right. Yeah.
And cast. I know he's got cast of his stuff.
Yeah, he had them at the
30-inch
conference. Yeah.
We were about to talk about that.
Yes, we were. So just before we'll give a teaser because we'll make sure to talk about it when he comes back on. The day before the Bigfoot conference, he went out and they found a 30-inch footprint.
Yeah.
30-inch footprint. That's amazing.
Had to be, what, 15 foot?
Yeah, I think so.
15, 16 feet tall.
Yeah.
Oh, it's crazy.
And I've never heard of anybody finding a 30-inch footprint. That's crazy.
Thank you, Randy.
Randy says it's his footprint.
What size shoe you wear? I think he wears like an 18 or something.
And he also found a track. It's almost like a reptile. It was.
It could be that freaking pterodactyl
like
that picture.
I know. That's what I thought about as soon as y'all were talking about that.
Yeah, we got to talk to him again. So
yes, around here, baby girl Casper. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
I think
it was around here
because it was the night before the Bigfoot conference. So, yeah. Yep. Yeah, it depends on who makes it between 15 and 18.
Well, Mr. Bigfoot Randy.
We're going to get Bigfoot. We're going to get Randy a Bigfoot costume.
Yeah. Hey, man, how you doing? Did you get out of the hospital?
Yeah. Are you feeling better?
I hope so.
Yeah, me too.
I started to stop by your house, but I didn't know if you was at home or not. I seen your truck there.
Baby girl's like, nope, I'll stay at my house.
She's got the right idea.
Jason's on par with what you're putting down.
I love this stuff, but I mean, I would go out there, but I'd probably hide a little while. I don't know.
Would you paint your face up?
Kind of
and stuff,
spooky.
try to blend in.
Yeah, maybe.
That's funny. I think. Well, I mean, this year we're going to do it. So
yeah, we're going.
It's going to happen.
We're going.
To round this off, just before the end, it says I'm out. Still not. Got a long way to go.
Whoops.
Then home, maybe another week or two. Wow. Then skin grafts. Oh my goodness.
Wow.
It's safer in the house, Jason.
It is safer in the house.
You hold the camera and I'll watch from the safety of my house over the overstoked Oscars. Talking about that, after the Bigfoot conference, we was able to go in and do a paranormal investigation. Where at, Jason?
Townsend, Cades Cove.
Mm-hmm. Went to Cades Cove. We got the gates unlocked for us, and we got to go in. And we did a couple of hours. And it was pretty interesting. We have not gone over the footage or anything else yet. So when we do, we might make that a Thursday show one of these Thursdays.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure we'll get a video out on YouTube of it.
Yeah. There was a few things that happened, I will say, while we were there that was very interesting. And that's all I've got to say, because I want y'all to watch it.
Yes.
We did have some things that happened. So knowing what's out there stops me at the door.
Well, Randy, hope you get better, and we'll be thinking about you.
Yep.
Appreciate you listening.
Baby girl,
maybe you can go through and listen to all our episodes,
There you go.
every one of them.
Just tip play and let them go.
Let them go.
Baby girl Casper says, can't wait.
Oh yeah,
it's going to be good. I'm hoping we found some stuff, or that some stuff came across. But if not, I have at least some anecdotal stories to tell about stuff that happened. So,
well,
either way, we've got stories.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us tonight. We're going to hop off of here after David does his spiel.
My spiel?
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank everybody for showing up and being part of the show. Like always, y'all make the show, not us. We're just here. So we just want to say that we appreciate everybody.
Yeah, thank you.
Remember, you can find us at paranormal411.org, Paranormal 411 on Facebook, YouTube, X, and Rumble. Tune in live every Thursday from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Also from Saturdays from 8 to 10. Remember, Saturdays at 10 to 11, if you're in the metro Atlanta area, you catch us on WDJY-FM. That's 99.1 FM. For listeners outside of Atlanta, you go to WDJYFM.com, or you can click the link on our website. Remember, we're on Subspace Radio and all major podcast platforms. We have a book out, East Tennessee Hauntings and Lore Edition 2. That is East Tennessee Hauntings and Lore Edition 2, which is available on Amazon or at paranormal411.org. Join us.
Join us.
Join us.
We'll see you Thursday.
Yes. Good night.
Have you ever wondered what lurks in the shadows? What secrets the night hides? What strange phenomena might be happening just beyond your perception? Join us as we journey into the world of the paranormal, exploring everything from ghosts and UFOs to cryptids and unexplained occurrences. From haunted houses to all things paranormal, join us in the search for the truth behind the veil. Welcome to Paranormal 411.